host of Wine Library TV, a.k.a. WLTV, and this is BBQ Central.
Yay! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Wednesday Hump Day barbecue show. That's right. Typically, you would find us live on a Tuesday, but tonight we are in Wednesday mode. And next week, as a program reminder, we will also be in Wednesday mode. Both times find me trying to get back from various locations in Texas on a Tuesday night. And if we tried to beat the clock last night, boy, would we have gotten our proverbial butts kicked.
Get that big stuff out of here.
It was a 5:50 get out of Dallas. I wasn't going to make it on time anyway. It was going to be towards 9:30 Eastern time by the time we touched down. Maybe we would have caught some minutes ahead with some tailwind. But 4 hours after we were supposed to depart, we hadn't even gotten out of Dallas yet, so that would have been a nightmare. Didn't get back in until well after 1 a.m. in the morning, so here we are on a Wednesday, so we are doing it live for anybody that's wondering.
Do it
It's
live!
not a tape show. This is totally real. It's absolutely happening here at 9:02 on Wednesday, 4/26/2023. And as it would happen to coincide with the last really big Cavs game and a show, the Cavs are playing tonight downtown, losing by 10 to the New York Knicks, and they are almost well out of their way in the first round of the playoffs, and not in a good way. And moving on, like, go start your summer vacation. So we'll keep track. I'll keep track of that as the show progresses here. So that's what we're doing here on Wednesday tonight, and that's what we'll be doing again Wednesday next week, because both Tuesdays have found me trying to get out of various points in Texas, and we would have lost last night, and there's no way I'm going to try and beat that clock again next week when I lost so badly Tuesday night last night. So that's what's happening. Here's what's happening on the show this evening in case you didn't get the newsletter. But before we talk about that, if you are just happening upon the show for the first time, or you want to get in contact with me or follow the show socially, here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you can get the newsletter coming up in about 12 minutes from now. Making his debut on the show, I believe it was back in January of this year. You know him on YouTube as Chud's Barbecue. You might have bought some of his different products, cookers and rubs and all this stuff. Brad Robinson rejoins us, or Bradley, whichever you prefer. Chud. So we're looking forward to catching back up with Chud. There was a bunch of stuff that we didn't talk about, getting to know him the first time. So we'll cover that, and we'll talk about some other live fire topics as well. So really looking forward to chatting it up with Brad here in just a few moments. And then after Bradley, we'll talk to the fourth Tuesday of the month in the 35 past the first hour normal segment. Derrick Riches from DerrickRiches.com will join us, and we'll talk about whatever the latest and greatest live fire topics are, not to mention the newly found and now ongoing saga and investigation of 100% charcoal hardwood pellets that Royal Oak is putting out. I have some information on that. We'll see what Derrick can tell us about it, but we're basically just trying to vet out if this is a real product, like 100% charcoal, and not wood pellets that have some type of charcoal in it, which has happened in the past. But I'll just leave it as a tease for now. Some interesting things that have transpired over the week since we brought it up as we closed the show out last week. And that'll close the first hour. Then we'll move to the second hour. And it is the fourth Tuesday of a month. And in the second hour, that, of course, brings a visit from the embedded correspondents. Doug Scheiding from Texas, longest running. John Solberg from Michigan, second longest running. And Rusty Monson from the great city of Utah all join us in the very known second hour on the fourth Tuesday of the month. Very tough to talk this evening, which I apologize for, but hopefully we'll get that rectified here as we get into the first guest. So that's how the show's laying out here for you this evening. Bradley Robinson of Chud's Barbecue and Derrick Riches' first hour, embedded correspondent second hour. Don't forget, you can follow me socially on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchats at BBQ Central Show. I say good evening to those of you watching the show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms, Facebook or Twitch/BBQ Central Show. You can also watch the show on YouTube /RD Rempe. And, of course, we are streaming audibly on Clubhouse, where there are a grand total of 0 people listening right now. So happy to have all of you. Too bad if you were listening on Clubhouse, I was going to give away $50,000 cash, but nope, nobody's there. So that offer is off the table, but somebody would have been extremely low-level rich for doing absolutely nothing at all except taking in the show on YouTube, Clubhouse. Speaking of YouTube, we have a new YouTube poll question of the week, which evidently I have changed all on my own, and I totally forgot about it. But it's this: would you rather hear me do a podcast with... Maybe I should just go back to the whole beginning of the show and start over again, because words are failing me. My mind is failing me. It is a car wreck of seismic and gargantuan proportion, but we will continue to push through. Who would you rather hear me do a podcast with as a co-host? Option 1, Sam the Cooking Guy. Option 2, Jess Pryles. Option 3, Malcolm Reed. And the last option, just keep them as guests, no pod. And currently, 50% of you, which is also taking the majority, are saying just keep them as guests. No pod with them. Not as a group, not as individuals, not just a two-way. No. Just keep them as guests in the pod and don't do a separate show with them. Nobody wants to hear that. Although 25% of you say Sam the Cooking Guy, and 12% of you are saying Jess Pryles, and Malcolm Reed is getting... just tied it up. 12% of you are both saying Jess Pryles and Malcolm Reed. Sam doubling it all up at 25%. And the rest of the field is doubling up Sam with just keep them as guests, no additional pod. So we'll ask the question to all the guests here showing up. And I will make sure that I remember I have a YouTube poll question of the week up for next week. So let's start here this evening. I ended the show with Chris Becker from cookingpellets.com, and as I had mentioned a couple minutes ago, we were bringing up the topic of the Royal Oak bringing 100% charcoal pellets to the market recently. You might recall that in Chris's expert opinion, it's not realistic that anyone is able to make a 100% charcoal pellet, as it is at least being marketed. I'm racing through the Royal Oak back and forth that I had with them on social media. So what did I do after the show ended? I immediately went to Instagram, found the Royal Oak account, which I did happen to be following, and blasted them off a note that said, "Good morning. Is there a contact I can talk to about these charcoal pellets?" I'm specifically looking for how they're made, for example, in a retort-type process, and what binders are used in them that hold them together. Thanks. And then I was responded to, thank you for your inquiry. Our method of manufacturing charcoal pellets is confidential and proprietary. I can confirm our pellets are made with 100% hardwoods and contain no filler or binders. Hopefully this information is helpful. And then I replied back, so the charcoal pellets have wood in them. They aren't 100% charcoal, correct? That would make more sense as to how they're able to stay together because there's no natural binder in charcoal like there is in wood. And their final reply back was, our pellets are 100% charcoal hardwood pellets. For more information, visit royaloak.com and read the description on the product page and the bag. Thank you for your inquiry, and that's where it ended.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Royal Oak, read between the lines. What I'm asking you is, are you putting together and are you willing to stake your claim on we are making a 100% charcoal pellet? It's not hardwood mixed into it, so when it goes through the pressure process, the lignins in the wood pellet part of that hold the whole thing together. And that it's not marked up and colored with charcoal like Chris had mentioned. But these are straight up 100% charcoal pellets. We sidestep that. We will continue to follow up and see what's exactly going on with that. I can tell you that much. But if you happen to work at Royal Oak and you know exactly how these things are made, you want to tell me, I will not out you. I will not talk about the process. I don't want to get sued, nor do I want you to get sued. Hey, Pits and Spits has some of the best looking, best cooking smokers and grills. Pits and Spits offering a full family of products, including traditional offset smokers, wood pellet grills, charcoal grills, travel grills, combination pits, fire pits, and much more. Pits and Spits has been only one of a few fabrication shops in America focusing on the sole making of smokers and grills for almost 40 years. Why is that important? They're able to put an emphasis on quality and design, locally sourced materials, unmatched attention to detail. From the fully welded barrels to the heavy gauge steel, they bring both function and beauty to life. Pits and Spits builds every product with the intention that it's going to get passed down from generation to generation. So if you are in competition or if you're just in the backyard, you want to step up that grilling and barbecue game to the next level, there is a product for you. Check them out at this custom website, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central, and use promo code BBQ Central with a free spice pack with your order of $500 or more. That's promo code BBQ Central. I was actually just talking to a few folks through email last week that are on the hook for some Pits and Spits, and I said, hey, don't forget at checkout, use promo code BBQ Central so you get the free spice pack. You're going to be spending more than $500, so be ready. Again, the website, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. Pits and Spits all spelled out. That's double T in both Pits and Spits. And then /BBQ Central and BBQ Central at checkout. For the free spice pack when you spend $500 or more, Chud will join us as we come back out of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, welcome back. And as luck would have it, this portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com. That's COOKIN pellets.com for more information or to purchase. My first guest tonight has become quite the popular name in the barbecue scene. You have seen or heard of him from his time at Leroy and Lewis, or perhaps you love his pit building skills, or you've watched him on YouTube, where he has a huge growing following of subscribers and fans and people that mash the subscribe button and hit the like button, all that other great stuff, and made his debut right here on this show in January. We race back to the hotline and welcome in our friend Bradley Robinson from Chud's Barbecue. YouTube poll question of the week, Brad, because I know you've just been dying to give your 2 cents. Who would you rather have me do a podcast with as a co-host? Sam the Cooking Guy, Jess Pryles, Malcolm Reed, or save them all as guests and just focus on you doing the pod?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think the Texas side of me wants to lean towards Jess because she'd probably come find me if I didn't say that. I think Sam the Cooking Guy would be a great because he seems to be able to just rant for hours. But honestly, the only answer is just keep him as guests. That way, Malcolm's already got his own podcast. Sam is on YouTube 3 times a week. Jess is all over the place. So I think what you're doing right now is the way to go.
36% of you are saying the same thing, which also happens to be tied for the majority, which is just keep them as guests and just focus on the pod, which I certainly appreciate. So great having you back here, Brad, and there was a bunch of stuff that we didn't actually get to back in January. And I just don't assume everybody knows who you are, and there's always new people coming into the show. So good to give a little background here. So if you missed Brad's first appearance, go back to the podcast and check him out in January. But I figured we'd pick up the conversation once more here this evening and talk about the name, Chud's Barbecue, and specifically Chud. Where does the name come from?
Yeah, the name, I get that question all the time because it's a pretty awkward thing to have a name like Chud. Even though my name is Brad, it's kind of close. Some people get it mixed up and call me Chad, which is also fine. I'll pretty much answer to anything. But yeah, there's really not a good story to how the name Chud came about. It was back in my early days. I'd moved to Texas in about around 2012, and I was introduced to the barbecue scene. I fell in love with it, and I started cooking in my backyard. And it got to the point where I was just posting pictures of my Weber kettle, brisket, ribs, and sausage cooks and all that all over Facebook and Instagram. And my family and friends from New England were like, hey, dude, can you stop posting pictures of meat all the time? I'm like, yeah, I can probably do that. So I decided to create a new channel that was basically plugged into the barbecue scene. That was going to be my barbecue persona. Again, this is me just in the backyard, zero experience. And my roommates and I at the time were joking around like, we should name it something funny. Something that sounds like a really dirty, like side shack on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, Texas, where there's some shirtless guy in the back with a cleaver. And somehow the name Chud's came up because it just sounds like that greasy, dirty barbecue joint that you'd see in the middle of nowhere in a long stretch of highway in the middle of Texas somewhere. So Chud's Barbecue was the name of my Instagram handle, and because we thought it was funny. And it just kind of kept going from there to the point where here we are, and now it's my trademarked brand name. So
I was just going to say, I mean, once you get into a brand, it's never been more important these days to actually get a trademark on that so nobody else can take it. But as you just confirmed, that's something you've already done. In your estimation, is it as important as I say it is?
Yeah, I mean, especially with the way things are looking right now, because I use the name as a lot of my as like for naming my products, and a lot of people around the world are ripping off the products, or gaining inspiration from my builds. So to have just that legal backbone of being able, if someone tries to sell a Chud pit or a Chud box or something like that, I won't act on it. But I've dealt with it a few times. So
have you looked into patenting and stuff like that?
Yep. We've got some patents already filed. So just trying to, again, just as the company grows, we're still small. So just trying to take every precaution because we're at that stage where we're big enough that people see it, but we're not big enough that we couldn't get taken advantage of. So
how do you work along with that? Because you've taken the time to protect some intellectual property. But if you see somebody really ripping you off, like if I saw the Chud box and I just made it the Remp box, and you see it's a total rip, will you call me and say, hey, I'm going to exercise some legal action here if you don't take it down, or cease and desist? or do you just have it and hope you don't actually have to put teeth behind it? Because that costs money.
Right, exactly. No, I don't plan on ever taking anyone down. I tell people all the time, like I have how to build a Chud box videos on my channel. And so if I were to go after everyone that built their own Chud box, I'd kind of look like an a-hole. But that's kind of what it's for. Is like, if you don't want to drive to Texas or you can't afford to buy one that I build, then you can build one yourself. But it's a matter of like, if, a big name company decided to capitalize on it, that's when having that actual backbone would be something that we could enforce, but probably still not, to be honest with you. That sounds like a headache. But
Do you have a thought or a take on Traeger's continual lawsuit against Green Mountain Grill? Do you think that Traeger should exercise more of your motif of just being like, hey, there's enough market share for everybody and you're just doing nonsense for nonsense sake?
yeah, I feel that way about pretty much everything across the board in the barbecue world. No one is completely original anymore, especially with the social media age. Everything has been done before, and I think we should all have the freedom to build upon it, because say I build the Chud press or the Chud box, and then some other company comes out with one that's more innovative or even better or has a better reach. That's something that I think would be better for humanity, but kind of bad for me. But at the same time, I think there's a matter of respect that needs to happen. There's a lot of companies that are building backyard direct heat barbecue cookers that have reached out to me and said, hey, you've created a monster here and you've created a demand. We're going to supply it, and we're going to, give you the props for the inspiration to it. And that's all you have to do is just, if you're going to, take a design or something like that, as long as you are aware of the fact and, mention it as, just give me a thumbs up somewhere along the way.
Would you be down to talking to like Weber, or I'm just throwing out names here, but big players in the industry that manufacture? If they came to you and wanted to license the Chud box, or if they said, hey, Brad, we're going to stroke you a check for $258 million and we're going to buy that Chud box from you, you can never do it again. You down for that kind of business?
That's exactly what I'm hoping for.
Really?
I would love to just just retire right now. Just give me some money. I'll just fade off into the distance. I did my work. But I don't know. I'm kind of half serious about that, because, if someone offered me $200 million, I'd be like, hello.
Yeah.
But because that's the thing about my brand, is I'm not just a manufacturer. If I was just a manufacturer trying to build backyard direct heat barbecue pits, then I would hold on to it for the rest of my life. But that's maybe 40% of what I do. I'm mostly content focused at this point.
So let's talk about some of the other portions of Bradley Robinson and Chud's Barbecue. There are the pits and the cookers that we've been talking about, but as I'd mentioned in the open, you have quite a robust YouTube following as well, and you've really progressed at a very quick rate, becoming much more elite and polished professional, things that I like to see in the YouTube channel from start to where you are now. So were you originally in the manufacturing side and then said, hey, I should be also videoing this stuff and I can get content, start a YouTube channel? Or was it the other way around, where you knew you had some fabrication skills, but you were starting content and said, hey, maybe I can marry these two up? How does that work together or independently, and where do they marry?
Well, the funny part is I started out with zero fabrication skills, zero filmmaking skills, and zero cooking skills. And it just kind of, like I said, I was cooking in the backyard with my buddies, created the Instagram Chud's Barbecue. And then when you're cooking in your backyard enough, people tell you should open a restaurant. And I said, I don't know how to do that. So I said, I'm going to get a job at a restaurant and see how my skills pair up with these professionals. So that's when I met Evan Leroy at Friedman's, now of Leroy & Lewis, worked with him for a couple years. And while I was there, I really wanted a good quality backyard smoker, but I didn't want to get anything that was too cheap or flimsy that I'd outgrow. And anything else was vastly out of my price range. So I started looking up YouTube videos on how to weld. I just started by Googling, what is welding? I'm like, how hard could this really be, right? And long story short, after a year of research, I gathered all the materials and built this smoker behind me here that I use in all my videos. And that was my first weld is on this very pit, and it's been holding strong for 7 years. And once I built that one, I really fell in love with the process, because you're not only putting a lot of hard work and effort into building something, but then you in return get to cook on it, which is just super rewarding. So then I started building another pit for a friend. another pit, and then it kind of started just snowballing from there.
So you had no fabrication skills whatsoever. You're completely self-taught in less than 10 years.
Yeah.
You're like a man's man. Good for you. I couldn't do that. I mean, I can get on YouTube and all that stuff, but when it actually puts rubber to the road, there's no way I could build that cooker. No way.
I was gonna say YouTube is a powerful tool. YouTube is what taught me how to cook and taught me how to weld and taught me how to make YouTube videos. Oddly enough.
So, pit wise, what are you offering right now? Price points, and then are they Chud pits? Period, or do you have ability to customize like some of these other guys in Houston and some other Texas shops?
So right now we have a whole arrangement of offerings. We've got a couple different sizes of offset, a couple different sizes of the Chud box. We got the chimney, the Chud press, which is what we're focusing on a lot. But basically what happened is I built up a super long wait list of like 130 pits that I could not handle by myself alone in a garage. So I shut down orders, knocked that list out, lost money on every single pit because of COVID. And then right now, as of like 2 months ago, we caught up with that wait list, and now we're just focusing on the Chud box, the mini Chud box itself. So that's the backyard direct heat barbecue cooker. It also has a charcoal grill insert, and that's what we're focusing on right now. We're not producing offsets at the moment. We're just because we don't want the same thing to happen where we get super overwhelmed and have to figure that out. So right now it's the mini Chud box, the chimney, and the Chud press griddle situation that we're selling pretty much as fast as people can buy them. So we're doing pre-orders right now for June, I believe.
So is the Chud box anything super special about it other than you're making it with the materials you want and in the way that you want?
Yeah, a lot of people are confused by it because they look at it and they think it's like a barrel pit or they think it's a Weber kettle. But really what it is like a hill country barbecue style pit. Like if you go to Snow's or you go to Luling, you see those big brick pits. Or if you go to the Carolinas, you see the whole hog pits. And that's the experience I'm trying to bring to the backyard cook, is that it's not a grill and it's not a smoker, but it kind of meets somewhere in the middle, giving you that direct heat barbecue. And there are a couple of pieces of kit out there that can do that, but this is the first one that's really focused on that. And the fact that it can also be a charcoal grill makes it multifunctional. And, it's made here in Texas. It's made out of quality material, and I'm really proud of it. I think it's a great little cooker. I literally just cooked some ribs on it like 10 minutes ago, so that's why I look so sweaty.
Is it a higher heat type cooker, or can you keep it in the 225, 250 range if you wanted to be in that more traditional temperature swing?
So most of the time I rock it right around 275, 300 degrees. The coals are about 17 inches below the grate. So you get that direct heat blast from charcoal, but it's not going to char it like a grill. It's not going to burn. So you're cooking above the coals, which gives you that fat and moisture dripping out of the meat hitting the coals, which gives you that kind of like charbroil, like Burger King vibe, as well as, but it's still low and slow cooking. So it's smoking and it's making its own smoke. And the reason I love it so much is because it takes up a small footprint and you don't need wood. It's a charcoal cooker. You can put wood in there and burn it like a wood fire or a Santa Maria style or something like that. But really, I'm trying to hit that market of people that don't have a wood guy or don't have fire management skills, but still want to be able to pump out some beef ribs or pork ribs or chicken, pork steaks, that sort of thing.
You had mentioned the Chud press. Is that born off inspiration of griddle cooking to some degree or smash burgering?
The Chud press was born because I was trying really hard to make flour tortillas and I kept failing. And I was, I was just like, well, I guess it's not in my DNA. It's not in my blood. But
you didn't
I kept
YouTube
trying to roll
it?
them out and I YouTubed the hell out of it. I was watching all these Mexican grandmas rolling them out and I just couldn't get it right. Like I tried. And then I said, how do they make these commercially? And that was when the light bulb struck because they've got these big machines that press it and heat it at the same time.
Huh.
And I said, well, I could build something that can do that. So then I knocked out like a big steel tortilla press that sits on my burner over here that you press it, it cooks it, and it cuts the time in half because instead of having to roll it out and then put it into a flat top, it does it all in one motion. And once I did that, I realized that this thing is basically a George Foreman grill at that point that makes really great tortillas, but you could also make a bacon press or a steak weight or panini press, and it's again perfect for smash burgers. So that's really where that came from.
Is that a big seller?
It is, yeah. We've sold about 700 of them so far, so that's pretty good.
All right.
And everyone seems happy with them. They're super overbuilt. Like everything I have is made out of just heavy duty 3/16 inch thick steel, and it's built to last a lifetime, which is something that I'm all about.
The other portion of the business that at least I know about is the rubs, things like this, and it seems that everybody is getting a rub to market these days except me, which is fine because I have no way of standing out. But how long were you in process? Is this something that you were using, or it was your recipe in like retail, or not retail, but in the commercial setting, and now you're bringing it to retail, or what?
Yeah, so the Chud rub was the first rub to come out. I'm working on 2 others that should be coming out in the next few months right now. But Chud rub is something I developed back in 2015 at Friedman's. It's your very basic, savory, pepper heavy, coarse salt kind of Texas rub that's still all purpose. And I developed it there for our turkeys. And then I started putting it on the ribs and the beef ribs and all that stuff. And it's just kind of your classic all purpose, sweet, savory, not sweet, but savory, pepper heavy Texas style rub. And like you said, everyone's bringing a rub to market. So if you've got a brand of any sort, you might as well just throw one out there because everyone loves collecting rubs.
Are you working with a specific co-packer, or are you working around it in some way and not having to deal that side of the business?
Yeah, I'm working with a co-packer. They're called Southern Style Spices here in Austin, Texas. We also sell black pepper by the pound from them. And the way I hook people in is like, this is the same spice dealer that Aaron Franklin uses, that Evan Leroy uses, that Interstellar Barbecue uses. So I'm saying, get some authentic Central Texas black pepper, as well as our rub. Which
is it true? That's a true claim?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
That's a true claim. That's the funny thing about Austin. Like, sometimes when the real barbecue nerds come over, I'm just like, yeah, that's the same wood that Aaron Franklin uses. That's the same pepper Aaron Franklin uses. Everyone's like, oh my God, can I touch it? It's like, calm down. We're in the same town. It makes sense.
Getting the rub to market, are you in brick and mortar as well, or have you found some kind of additional distribution channel than just on website?
Yeah, so we have our own shop nowadays. It's down deep South Austin, down by Valentina's, where we house all of our pits that are waiting for pickup. We do some fabrication down there, and that's where all the merchandise lives because we got like 4 or 5 T-shirts, hoodies, bandanas, keychains, all sorts of stuff. And we've had that place for about a year now, and it's amazing because all that stuff used to come out of my house. So to get the garage back and get the bedroom back has been very nice.
Are you getting arrested or taken down there?
It does sound like that. That's kind of the beauty of making videos here in the backyard is there's a helicopter circling me for like 20 minutes or less. I'm trying to do an ad read for a video, and you just hear this plane just keep helicopter just circling around. It's crazy.
Man. Well, it's what happens when you capture sound in the wild. Last question before I let you go, and it's a little bit more involved, but as far as the YouTube channel is concerned, were you always going to be a cooking guy, or, well, I guess you said you were showing also fabrication, stuff like that, but there is a lot of cooking there. So did you realize at some point that there was going to be a little bit more acclimation to the cooking side?
Yeah, so I decided that I wanted to start a cooking channel very early on because, like I said, I learned how to cook by watching, Chef John and, Sam the Cooking Guy and all these guys on YouTube back in like 2010, 2015. And especially on the barbecue side, once I got my first job in the barbecue scene here in Austin, I realized that there was so much nuance that wasn't ever brought to light on the internet. So like it was like my 3rd day on the job, and I'm like, I should start a YouTube channel. So it's been in the plans for a long time, but it's a tough move taking that first step towards putting your face all over the internet.
You seem like you have a pretty cool vibe about you and good personality for the camera. Is that something you had to gimmick up, or are you generally that guy no matter what?
It was definitely awkward at first trying to figure out how much of myself I can actually let on. I think I'm a little bit more ridiculous in person, so I'm trying to be as PC as possible. I don't swear in my videos. I don't, bring up certain topics and stuff like that. But basically, I knew I wanted to start a channel. I was at Leroy & Lewis, and I knew that was not my forever home. And I decided 1 year from today, I'm starting a YouTube channel. And in that time, I did all the research into cameras and microphones and lighting and gear and all that stuff, and just started watching strategy videos and how to actually build and tell a story. So by the time my first video came out, I had a clear vision for the next 5 years. And now we're on year 3. And it's going somewhat according to plan, actually.
I was going to say, like, how much has changed over a 5-year plan?
The funny thing is, it was incredibly accurate because there's so much, anecdotal data of YouTubers. I was like, by the end of year 1, I'll have 20K. By the end of year 2, I'll have 100K. And like, it was to the dot. I was like, geez. I mean, there's also websites out there that will calculate your growth for you, and they're pretty spot on as well. But at the same time, it's just a matter of you have to keep grinding every week. You have to keep pumping out better and better content, which is a lot, to say the least.
So what's coming up then that we can subscribe and like to get us over there and do that if we're not already?
Well, right now I'm in the middle of a build series, which is something that I want to start incorporating into the channel more. I'm building a 120-gallon reverse flow smoker from scratch, and it's like an 8-part series where I go into great detail about how to do every cut, what every piece is called, which is a nice change of pace for the channel because it's been mostly entirely cooking. There's been a few build videos along the way, but trying to diversify the channel a little bit. And then, there's some travel vlogs coming up, and just trying to hammer it out, keep seeing how far we can push this barbecue thing.
Bradley Robinson is joining us right here on the show. You can go to chudsbbq.com for buying the Chud box and the Chud press, rubs, all that good stuff. And make sure you're subscribing to him over on YouTube as well. Brad, appreciate the time here this evening, and we'll do it again soon. Continued success.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You got it. Brad Robinson right there. Hey, what a dynamo that guy is. The difference between Brad and me, I would think, okay, I'll go to YouTube and figure out how to fabricate a barbecue pit and then see what it entails and go, no. And he did it. I think that encompasses the complete difference between Brad and myself. I'm a pretty good cook, pretty good business guy, fabricator, owner of torches and things that cut other than a pocket knife. No. But good for him. He's doing it right. ChudsBBQ.com, CHUDS. ChudsBBQ.com, and we will be back with our pal Derrick Riches right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, we welcome back, and we thank Bradley Robinson for joining us last segment, chudsbbq.com, his website. And you can subscribe to him over on YouTube. The segment brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth. If you have smart speakers in your home, Fireboard integrates with those. You can find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. It is the 4th Tuesday of the month, 35 past the first hour, which means we are joined once again by Derrick Riches. Derrick, YouTube poll question of the week, which reads a little something like this. Who would you rather hear me do a podcast with as a co-host? Sam the Cooking Guy, Jess Pryles, Malcolm Reed, or just keep them as guests, no additional pod?
Are you talking about adding an extra podcast?
Yes.
Or just
right. I mean, hypothetically.
Hypothetically. I don't know. I don't see why I should do your market research for you.
You're not. I'm not going to do it, but I get a lot. Well, okay, so you're going to force me to tell you why I'm asked. It appears that of these 3 people that were named when they show up every month, inevitably I get 1 or 25 emails giving me an idea I've never heard of. Oh, he's so good. You should have a podcast with Sam. Oh, we love Jess. You should have a podcast additionally with Jess or with Malcolm. And I always say, you know what? No. And then I list the reasons why. Jess Pryles doesn't listen to podcasts, but she does guest on them. Malcolm Reed has his own podcast. Sam the Cooking Guy, I can't believe, continues to show up once a month, but he just must like me as a person because he's very busy and very famous, and he's got many Emmys. There's really no reasons we should be friends from his aspect of it, but he does it, and I continue to tell people this, and they continue to ask me, why don't you do this, X, Y, Z? So I figured I would just try and nip it in the bud with the YouTube poll question of the week. Not free market research, Derrick.
But what you are saying is my name didn't come up on that.
Well, I don't write the crowd reaction, so take it for what it is.
All right, I'm out. I'm done. Let's go.
Derrick is quitting the show tonight here, 4:20. I knew when we pushed it to a Wednesday show, something weird was going to happen. I didn't think you were going to quit, but I did think something weird was going to happen. So there you go. Look, I wanted to start this evening and talking about something that I'm hearing about. And when I heard about it, it's been a number of months. I didn't even really give two thoughts about if this is something that I would even want to ask you about, but now it's starting to do that thing where one person did it, and now I'm hearing it from somebody else, and we talked about it with Wes Wright a couple weeks ago, which is battery-powered grills. And I say it out loud, and I still want to laugh, going, really? But I guess the answer is really. So what do you think about battery-powered grills? And more importantly, will this be a real sector of our live fire community sooner than later?
Well, there's two issues that I see. That one is they started coming out with all these portable pellet grills, and almost everyone has one, but you have to plug it in. And when I was researching them, I think the longest cord I found on them was 10 feet, but most of them had 6-foot cords, and then warnings about using extension cords. So, I mean, I struggle with the portability because that violates my rule for what a portable grill is. It's not portable if you have to be anchored to something, an electrical outlet or something like that. I mean, any other portable you can take anywhere you want, but a portable pellet grill, you've got to have an outlet nearby. So it makes sense for those to have like a battery option or some sort of option like that. I know that Traeger's got their 9-volt inverter unit that you can get to plug your portable Traeger into to run it off a car battery or your RV or something. But the other thing is like this, well, how do you grill without a computer controlling everything? I mean, you have to have a computer to monitor your grill temperature. You have to have a computer to, connect to your Wi-Fi. You have to have this
for a second, just for a fleeting moment, I thought you were kidding, or I thought you were serious. But now there's the smooth Derrick Riches sarcasm just oozing out of every pore.
I've been warned about turning down my sarcasm, but it's not working so far. I mean, if you're doubling down on a technology solution for your grill that requires, electricity, then you kind of need to come up with something for people who can't or don't want to be plugged in somewhere. So that's kind of where we're at. I mean, Halo was the first, but Halo's tiny, and Pit Boss now has their electrical, their battery operated pellet grill. I don't know who else is going to jump in there.
Traeger's going to come out with a full size one. Not soon, but there are renderings out. I guess there is the case to be made that could just be one of those great ideas that never sees the light of day. But that was also a two battery, like an internal battery built within the unit, but then there was an external battery to like get you over a charging hump if needed.
Right. And well, Traeger's coming out with everything because that's what they do.
Because they invented everything.
let's get patents on this. Let's, get this in the works so that we're ready to roll with it if that's what happens. The problem with pellet grills is they have a very high amp draw on startup. Because you need to get the igniter going. You need to get that glow plug heated up while you're running all the fans and the auger and doing the whole startup process. Typically, after that's done, they don't draw a lot of current. So, for a full size, I think you're pulling 300 watts on startup, but after that, you're at about 50 watts. So, I mean, it won't kill your car battery, but if you're running lithium rechargeables, you're going to have a high amp end on that. You can do it. I don't know why. The thing about the full size is it's not a portable. Where are you taking it? Why, I know there are people who want to look, I see it at the park all the time. People with full size grills that they've just wheeled off the back of their truck at, cookouts or picnics or whatever, there are big cookouts that go out on cemeteries at Mother's Day. I've noticed those a lot. Yeah, that's a thing.
Where are you living?
Lots of places. It comes up quite a bit. It's
wow.
It's part of the thing. But I don't. I mean, myself, I don't know that I would go for a battery-powered full-size pellet grill. Partly because I don't want to lift the damn thing in the back of my truck. But for the portables, I get it. If you're going to be doing something that's got computer-enabled functionality for it, yeah, you're going to have to throw in some sort of rechargeable power supply.
You don't like full size in your backyard sans cords? Does that not make it a little bit more attractive to you? Or you don't care?
No. Because the battery's going to die. That's going to happen. You're not going to charge it up. I mean, if you've been in kind of the outdoor cooking industry, you know that maintenance is not like a high priority for a lot of people. And it's like, hey, you run out of propane every time you fire up your gas grill. Now you're out of power too, and you're going to have to drag your cord out so you can plug it in and charge up one power supply while you're running the grill anyway. So I don't.
You don't see this as going to be a big thing.
There's just this mentality in business that, like, if we can put it in, why don't we?
Yeah.
If we can add that feature, why isn't it there? I mean, we have flat top grills with air fryers. We have, come on. To some extent, it's madness, and it's being sold to people who don't know what they're buying, and they're being suckered into stuff. And that's my position. And and some of these companies are just like, hey, if you're stupid enough to buy it, we're stupid enough to make it.
Consumers, that's Derrick talking, not me. No wonder you're not an option for who I should start another podcast with. You're calling everybody stupid.
Your listeners are an incredibly intelligent and sophisticated crowd of people who would like to see a regular podcast with me and you bitching about shit.
That's right. No doubt about it.
There we go.
So the other side of battery power is electric. And there is the Charbroil Edge, which we have talked about in the past, which you've been more favorable than not favorable with for the most part. And I thought there was going to be more full-size electric grills. I think there might be one other in a Napoleon version or something like that. But Weber came out with a more like tabletop, but it's on a cart. Like the Weber Q, you can put it on a cart and it makes it feel like it's full-size, but it's not.
The Weber Lumen is the Weber Q in a different box.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but they had to have a new product out because they were then a publicly traded company who needed to have lots of press releases. It's nothing. The Napoleon has been promised for almost a year now, and it's still waiting. I don't know if there's an issue with it working, but I will say that I have had the Charbroil Edge. I've cooked ribeye steaks on it at high temperature. I've seared. My issue with it isn't its heat performance as much as its flavor profile. Your combustion isn't there. You don't have fire. You don't have those things. You have a dry heat, you have a dry smoke, and that's kind of the issue I have. But I also recognize that there's a lot of people living in places where an electric grill is their only option. I think that the Charbroil Edge does the job, and it does it well enough that if that's all you can do, get it.
Here's the question of the evening in this topic. When I was at HPBA a month ago or whenever it was, I asked all the big manufacturers about full-size electric grills. Nobody did the summarial dump on it going, that's stupid. But all of them, Charbroil wasn't there, but all the other ones said, we buy into where it might be popular, or we're going to put something on the table. But the big hurdle for everybody, to a man and woman, was we're going to need 220, not the 110. The 110 isn't going to cut it. It's not going to give you the performance that you want. If we were anywhere else except America, this is not even something we'd have to worry about. This is where we're at now. And it's for us to bring something to market, whoever I'm talking about, they would need to have the 220 power, which means that's probably not something that you have on the outside of your house that you can just jam into it, which means you're probably going to have to bring in an electrician, or unless you're a safe electric non-expert and you can wire it into your own house, you can do that to save some money. But there's going to be not only a grill investment, but a potential power investment with all these other folks. Do you believe the 220 is really needed, and would that give you that much better of an effect?
Yeah, the 220 is phenomenal. I mean, if you're in Europe and you've got a full-size electric grill running, on the 220 line, it works really good. I was impressed with Charbroil's Edge because I can hit a great temperature, 700 degrees on it. And I can't do that on my Weber Genesis. Now, yeah, I've slammed Genesis for what they've made it for years, but if my electric grill will hit a better great level temperature than my gas grill will, and that's IR measured.
Yeah.
There's an issue there, and I think that they've kind of proven it will work. It's not big. It's not a big grill.
Right.
It's, in fact, the cooking surface isn't much bigger than most of your portable electric grills, and that's kind of going to be the key. And that's why I've been waiting for this Napoleon. It's got 2 electric heat elements, 2-zone cooking, and if they can pull it off, then they can disprove that 110 fault that everyone's been saying you can't break for all this time. And Napoleon, if you're listening, call. Let's talk. But that's kind of where I've been literally waiting for this thing for like 8 months now, going, this could prove the electric grill viability.
I closed the show last week with Chris Becker from cookingpellets.com, and we were talking about this. I don't know if it's new, but once again remarketed 100% charcoal pellet that they are now having in the market. And there's some influencers that are taking pictures and posting them on Instagram, this and that. I asked Chris Becker point blank, can you make a 100% charcoal pellet? And he said, as far as his expertise tells him and his experience, that you cannot take coal dust, let's say, and put it through a press. You can't put any pressure on it. It's not going to come out like a wood pellet is, because there's no lignin in there. That's the shiny thing that keeps everything together in the wood. And I said, well, do you think that they're lying? Do you think that this is a gimmick, or is there another process? And he gave a couple different answers to that. There perhaps is a retort process that would be very expensive that might be able to do something along those lines. But as far as doing it through any type of traditional wood dye type thing and cutting, that it couldn't just be 100% charcoal and have it all just stay together. What do you know, if anything, about this product?
Well, I mean, first of all, Chris is the expert here. I mean,
Right.
No one knows wood pellets better than him. He's my go-to guy for like all that information, and he's absolutely right. You can't extrude pure charcoal pellets in the same way you'd make wood pellets. Maybe they're using a different process. I mean, all I got to say is that the value of a pure charcoal wood pellet is that it eliminates that pesky smoke flavor from your pellet grill, so that you don't have to tolerate that.
How dare you, wood-fired people? Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
and that is actually an issue. There are people who, I bought a pellet grill and my food's too smoky.
yes.
And it's like, well,
Which is the biggest bitch about pellet cookers. There's not enough smoke, but there's always
you
one.
should have. Yeah, well, no, because these are people who came from gas grills. They came from gas grills or simple charcoal grills. They went to pellet grill, and now they're suffering the smoke. Versus the people that went from offset to pellet grill and going, I can't taste this.
Yeah.
Now, I appreciate that people have different palates, but if you've bought that pellet grill and now you're trying to get the smoke flavor out, put it on eBay, get rid of it, go back to what you had before, and stop bitching.
What are you working on right now that we should be heading over to DerrickRiches.com and consuming?
Well, I was working on a bottle of whiskey, but just catching up on all the radical inflation and prices and realigning stuff. And also, I've been working on, is Napoleon going to kill Weber?
In what way?
In that they're better.
Sounds like a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Is that going to be an article, or are we going to be breaking news on the show for that?
It'll be an article. Hopefully I can get that wrapped up this week.
All right. Well, then we will talk about it when we see you in May. This is Derrick Riches, DerrickRiches.com. So visit there so you can consume that article as soon as it's posted up there for everybody to read and take in, and then we will chat about it next month. Derrick, always appreciate the time.
Hey, good to talk to you again, and see you next month.
All right. Derrick Riches right there. Exceptionally sassy this month, which I certainly appreciate as a host, and not afraid to share opinion. I'm more along the line of Derrick. I don't know if full-size battery-powered cookers, charcoal or pellet or whatever, are really going to be major table stakes here as we move forward. I think there's a better option for full-size electric grills to still be the hot button item here before 2023 closes out. But we'll see about that. I'm working on a follow-up segment with Seth Sawyer from Charbroil anyway to talk about the Edge. So we'll obviously be digging into that 110 stuff that Derrick and I talked about. So good stuff from Derrick, DerrickRiches.com, and we'll be back right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
He's going on and on about, what about these people that might need to run their electronics and how to do it? Like, you know what? For a second, that guy, I thought that guy was serious, but then he kept going on, and I realized, there it is. A heaping dose of Derrick Riches sarcasm with a side of smartassedness. Well played, Derrick. Well played. If you're just tuning in and you missed that segment, it will be in podcast early tomorrow morning because those are all set to go at 11:55. That first hour, 11:55 this evening. But typically, podcast feeds, for whatever reason, take 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes to actually go from me uploading it to actually hitting the podcast feed for you guys to consume. But we'll see how it goes. We are pointing to the second hour, so go ahead and refresh your libations. And we'll see you on the other side. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Yo, pod! This is Meat Mitch, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Bump.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me! Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Now listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show, where we talk about barbecue and grilling related items. The show coming to you live every Tuesday night from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern.
Andrew.
Oh, okay.
We'll do it live.
That's the one. If you are just tuning into the show, you've missed the first hour, but you have a whole second hour coming up here between 10 and 11 Eastern. And then, as I just mentioned on the way out, we are recording audibly for podcasts, so you can listen to the show whenever is convenient for you. You don't have to be live, although there's a lot of folks who like to take in the show live through the various platforms, which I'll tell you about here in just 1 second. Still to come on the show later this evening, the embedded correspondents make an appearance. We'll be talking about some new live fire barbecue topics. Also, because it's everybody's favorite, we'll be running down a new, refreshed list of 100% assurity questions. The show is originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
And we say good evening to those of you watching through one of our video streaming platforms this evening, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. You can also watch the show via YouTube /RD Rempy, and there is an audible feed over at Clubhouse as well, where we continue the consistency of no audible streamers. I'm not sure what Clubhouse did, but this program that I use, which has gotten better as it got worse, but now it's back to being better again. You can't even schedule rooms like you used to be able to. Now you have to make a frickin' house. I don't even know what that means. And then if you try and go live in the house, it says there's hidden membership, so you can't do it. They made it very hard. So now I have to use the start room in the very generic portion of this. I don't know if anybody even sees that. So I just keep it up there just in case anybody wants to listen to it live audibly because they can't watch it. Maybe they're driving. Maybe they have no interest in watching anybody. They just want to hear it, whatever. So it's up there if you want to do it. Now let's go ahead and update the YouTube poll question of the week, which, if you're just joining us, is this. Who would you rather hear me do a podcast with as a co-host? Sam the Cooking Guy, Jess Pryles, Malcolm Reed, or just keep them as guests? No additional podcast. 53% of you are saying no additional guests.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Or just keep them as guests. No additional podcast. But if you want to toss that out, because it's 53%, the overwhelming majority are saying that Sam the Cooking Guy is the one that I should be doing an additional podcast with. And Jess Pryles is sitting at 7%, and Malcolm Reed is at 13%. But the overwhelming majority is keeping everybody as guests and no additional podcast, which, again, I'm the one here that fully agrees with all of that. So that's how it will stay. But since I've been getting a number of emails about additional podcasts, we figured we'd talk about that here this evening as we open it up for the YouTube poll question of the week. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 278, taking you back to April 28th, 2015. featuring the pitmaster of Hot Wachula's competition team, Matt Barber. Not to be confused from somebody that also used to appear on the show and was also from Wachula, but his name was not Matt Barber. His name was only Dan from Wachula. If you know Dan, you have to be a long time listener of the show to know Dan, who used to call in. He had a certain tone and cadence that he would call in with, and he was one of those guys that just likes to call in because he had a hidden agenda. He tried to push the limits of what I was going to let go on the show, ultimately trying to work his way into me hanging up with him and dropping the hammer, which I did, I think, on every single phone call. But Dan liked it like that. Let's say that. So this is not who will be showing up on the show this coming Friday. That's Matt Barber from Hot Wachulas. And he also happens to be the owner of the Hot Wachulas co-packaging business. So if you wanted to do a barbecue sauce or a rub, he's somebody that you could contact about starting business with him. And back in 2015, Matt Barber was on a competition cooking tear that few cooks have ever experienced between FBA and KCBS events. He had won 10 events inside of 5 months, which is an incredible feat. I don't know if you're really up on what's good and what's not as far as things winning in the world of competition barbecue, but especially back then, winning 10 events inside of 5 months was a huge feat. We talked about the run that he was on at the same time and what it was like to burn that hot for that long. Matt has been a guest on the show for years. We've spent a lot of time talking about competition barbecue. We've also spent a lot of time talking about the barbecue business. As I had mentioned, this is a guy that makes sauces and rubs for folks. So not only is he and was he a great competition cook, but he had business ties into this industry as well. So if you aren't familiar with Matt, this will be a great introduction for you coming up, and make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast feed in order to get it. Also, if you would like to hear a past guest or segment again that you think might be lost in the archives, email John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com and let him know what you would like to hear. Once again, that's Jon at thebbqcentralshow.com. And then there's this. We are on tonight because I wasn't going to make it home yesterday, Tuesday, which has been show night forever and ever, amen. But I knew with every fiber of my being we'd be fighting against it last night, and I said, well, considering what's going on this week and then what I have going on next week, which both happen to transpire in Texas and both happen to be logistically coming back on a Tuesday, and I didn't want to take the risk of having it blow up in my face because that's happened before. I asked everybody that was booked for Tuesdays, for those 2 Tuesdays tonight, next week, if they would bump back a day. Everybody was very accommodating, so that's great. But I was on my way back, and I told you, of course, that we had an incredible delay coming out of Dallas-Fort Worth yesterday. So I started boarding the plane when the wheels should have been touching down in Cleveland last night. I had a window seat all the way in the back of the plane because corporate travel lady doesn't like sales guys. She wants to jam us up whenever she can. And who comes to sit in the middle seat? Well, somebody who looked confrontational, at least, intoxicated, short and angry, clutching a go bag of some sort, had a bit of a military feel to it. And immediately I'm on my guard trying to figure out, is this guy so drunk that he might try and start something with somebody? The guy sitting on the aisle seat wasn't going to be an easy target, I can tell you that, if this guy was going to look to start some stuff. So I started chatting this guy up and trying to get a gauge of what kind of personality he had, what kind of danger we might be in. I was going to have to do a reverse naked choke and expire this guy from consciousness or not, just in case. I can do that. Well, we got to talking. Lo and behold, this guy is on his way from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Warrensville Heights, Ohio, which is home of Thistledown Racetrack, one of the worst thoroughbred racing courses on the face of the earth. Trash Central. In the middle of Trash Central, Warrensville, Ohio. And this guy got caught up on the tarmac for 3 hours in Albuquerque, so he was angry then, and then he got caught up in this additional delay going from Dallas to Cleveland. He was drinking hard. Well, 2 hours into the flight, just as we're getting ready to start initial descent down, must have been hungry. What did he pull out of his bag? Something I've never heard of in my life. Anybody ever heard of potted meat? Potted meat! I asked this guy right off the bat, what's potted meat? Is that a Albuquerque delicacy? Because I've never heard of it. And he went into his bag and pulled out this. This is what potted meat is. Now, to me, that looks like a can of cat food. I said, is that cat food? He said, no, man, it's potted meat. Well, potted meat is made with chicken, pork added. And when you crack the lid on that, that's something that that's a bell you cannot unring. That top came off, and 6 rows ahead of us and the 3 rows behind us were getting gassed with that potted meat smell. But he was undeterred. He took out his saltines and started digging into that potted meat, shoveling them into his pie hole. Meanwhile, the smell is just burning the inside of my nose. Every 5th cracker, you want some potted meat? No. I'm never going to want potted meat. I can't even begin to imagine a scenario where I'm going to need potted meat. By the way, potted meat on the explanation says that it's made with ground chicken and pork and preserved in a way so that it remains fresh for a long time. You can spread it on crackers, which this guy did. Use it as the sandwich filling or add it to any recipe of your choice. Perfect for camping, hiking trips, and picnics. The 3-ounce can is a great way to enjoy things on the go or when you're away from home. Gross! Look, if you're a fan of potted meat, don't bring it on an airplane and open it. Not even if you only have 20 minutes to go. Nobody wants to smell it. And you know it's bad because everybody gave this look. You know that look. When something bad gets opened up, you don't even have to say anything. It's like the turn. Yeah, potted meat. If you're near a Walmart, pick up a can of potted meat, throw it in your glove compartment. It's good forever. Uh-oh. It's made in a way to keep it fresh for a long time. Hey, Primo Grills is still sponsoring the show, even though I did talk about potted meat. It's got a game-changing oval design. It's got a ton of accessories. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram. They have the best ceramics technology in the biz. They have multiple sizes of ovals that will change your life. It gives you true 2-zone cooking capabilities and over 60 different ways to configure the cooker. Now, they're only sold through dealers, so you have to find one near you. You can then see and touch and feel all the different size ovals and then buy the best one that fits your needs. And you're going to get educated because it's being sold through a dealer, so that's great. PrimoGrill.com. That's PrimoGrill.com, and we'll be back with the embedded correspondence right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And this portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes, a host of accessories to choose from to complete that pit barrel cooking experience, and it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or professional. It's a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com pitbarrelcooker.com, all one word, pitbarrelcooker.com, and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. It is the fourth Tuesday of the month in the second hour, and that means it's time for the embedded correspondence, absolutely, and we welcome all of them in. If you're just joining us for the very first time this evening, to the right of me is the longest-running embedded correspondent, Doug Scheiding from Texas, and below me is the second longest-running correspondent, John Solberg from Michigan, and caddy corner below to the right is the correspondent from the great city of Utah and the owner of Salt City Barbecue, famed food trailer, Rusty Monson. So, gents, we have a number of things to get to here this evening. Before we get into the 100% assurity picks, Doug, let me start with you, as I'm just coming off of a plane rant that is one for the ages. Have you ever heard of potted meat before?
Never heard of it, never wanted it out based on your description.
John, have you ever heard of potted meat?
Of course. I thought everyone had heard of potted meat.
But you've heard of it in that name, potted meat?
Yes. So I saw the Walmart brand that you put on the screen. I didn't know it was a Walmart brand, but Armour, Hormel, canned, pull off the top, Vienna sausage kind of can thing. Yeah, it's like, it's a thing.
And you eat it?
I'm not going that far. Have I ever eat it? Yes, I would rather. I'd prefer to go with the duck liver testicle paste over the potted meat. But yes, I've eaten it.
No doubt. Rusty, are you familiar with potted meat, and have you had it?
Yeah, that's actually all we could eat at my grandmother's house when I was a kid, and so it was that spam.
That was all you could eat?
Well, if we wanted to eat, like saying like, "Hey, can I eat something?" It's not dinner, and it's not lunch. You could have potted meat, and you have, like you said, Vienna sausages. We had spam. We had all that stuff. And I used to wrap it in tortillas or on just straight white bread.
Huh.
And like kind of like what is that paste when it's a meat? What's it called? Yeah,
bread. A sandwich spread.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I evidently led a very sheltered life, because that guy produced this can. He kept saying potted meat, and I thought he was talking some kind of slang, and then he finally dug into his knapsack and pulled out that can. I was like, dude, is that cat food? And he's like, no, man, it's potted meat. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, you're not going to open that, are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm hungry. And sure enough, he dug into that, and it was like, psh, and I was like, uh-oh. And then 3 seconds later, it was on you like a cheap suit, and everybody was doing the look. I was like, wow. You are that guy. In middle seat, that guy. Not even window seat or aisle seat guy that's just pretentious and entitled. He was middle seat guy that did that and ruined the whole plane. So I both respect that and hate him all at the same time, because then I had to smell that for the rest of the way down and getting out of the plane. But you guys know potted meat, and what can I say about that? So we have a new set of 100% assurity questions. Let me take a quick check over here. Yeah, right. So we'll start with Doug here this evening. Doug, 100% yes or 100% no. One of these three teams will win Memphis in May this year. Jack's Old South, Big Bob Gibson's, or Cool Smoke.
100% yes.
Oh, wow. By the way, I forgot to mention, if it looks a little bit different behind Doug, Doug is actually pulling a nice solid for the team here this evening. He is on location. Where are you at, Doug?
I'm in the illustrious city of Fort Scott, Kansas.
Wow.
South of Kansas City. So at E3 Meat Company doing a fundraiser event.
All right. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of the fundraiser to do our own bit of fun raising here on the Barbecue Central show. John, don't shake your head at me. That was funny. 100% yes or 100% no. One of these three teams will win Memphis in May this year. Jack's Old South, Big Bob Gibson's, or Cool Smoke.
100% yes.
Oh, all right. I have a follow-up question to this, depending on how Mr. Positivity answers. Rusty, yes or no?
100% no.
Mr. Negativity showed up here from Utah tonight.
Right.
By the way, I'm backing Rusty up. 100% no. So if I might ask a quick follow-up, which we don't typically do here, Doug, are you saying yes because the old judging guard is going to try and correct the wrong that they think might have happened when Blues Hog won it last year?
Absolutely, I think that is the case. Now, I heard that Mixon is not going to be there, but I could be wrong on my intel. But
like the
but
team's
yes,
not going, or that Myron's not going just specifically?
That Myron wasn't going to be there. But yeah, I think Chris Lilly's winning it.
All right. Oh, well, Doug's doubling down on an individual, which I certainly appreciate. John, similar mindset there. You think that there might have been a perceived wrong, and now people want to make it right with the old guard?
Doug and I are 100% aligned in every aspect, including the predicted winner.
Wow, wow. Well, I can obviously I have a mindset that's going to ask those follow-up questions. I don't know if for as bad, and they are the worst at Memphis in May is as far as answering email questions specific to the event that they are known for, which is Memphis fucking in May. But they won't answer any questions about it, I can tell you that. Direct questions, loophole questions, around the bush questions. Doesn't matter how you word them, they're not answering back. So I could never get any follow-up to all the questions that I was asking as we were leading into the deposit that everybody talked about and how many teams. How did you come up with the teams that you let in? All this stuff. Never got any answer about it. But I don't know if I'm broaching the thought that somehow the old guard has to win or not. I might say maybe Rusty and I are in lockstep tonight. Rusty, are you with me that I think that Blues Hog is going to double up this year? I
don't believe they will either.
You
I
don't
believe they will. As much faith as I have in Brad and Tim, and I think they're the greatest cooks alive. Can I be honest with you?
Yes.
I've been listening to Malcolm Reed's podcast, and I think he's put together quite a cool team, and they're doing whole hog. So I'm going to say that my dark horse is Malcolm Reed.
Really? Wow. I think that Blues Hog is going to double up. That's what I think. I think there's going to be some real folks with some real hurt feelings that Brad and Tim came down and smacked everybody around for the better part of 4 years and took away a couple world championship overalls. And then they're never going to show up there again. They're going to shit all over it. They're going to be like, everybody talks about how hard this, forget about it. We could stay and be the world champs of all world champs if we wanted to stay this long, but we've lost interest. We're going to go so instead. So that's what my prediction is going to be. We move on. Well, I'm going to preclude myself from answering this question, and I should probably preclude Rusty from answering this question, but I'm going to have to ask anyway. Rusty, 100% yes or 100% no, Blues Hog is going to repeat in Memphis in May next month.
Nope. As much as I want it to happen.
John, repeat?
100% yes, because I'm learning to live in hypocrisy.
He just said Chris Lilly was going to. I love that. Doug, 100% yes or 100% no. Team's Blues Hog will repeat as Memphis in May grand champ next month.
No, but I would. Are they not cooking shoulder this year to see if they can win all three? Or they're not
I don't
going
know.
to?
I don't know.
Oh,
I mean, it certainly wouldn't surprise me. Those guys probably. Also, it wouldn't surprise me if they don't really have any type of game plan dialed in. Like, they strike me as that kind of team. They are that good. Where maybe they're right now vacillating between should we try and repeat and hog because it's the hardest, or should we try and do a completely different category because it was fifth overall when they went into shoulder that first year, then they won ribs the second year, and then they won it last year, obviously. So maybe they do want to circle back and try and get a shoulder championship on top of that. It would make sense.
I heard somewhere, that they were going to go do shoulder to try to win all three.
I would love to see that. Obviously, I am a yes that Memphis in May Blues Hog will repeat, but we knew that because I didn't do a good job looking ahead. Rusty, you believe me when I say that I could care less about being in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. 100% yes or 100% no.
I have never been more a no in my whole life.
Do John, 100% yes or 100% no. You believe me when I say that I could care less about being in the Barbecue Hall of Fame.
100% yes. I have 100% faith that you could care less.
Doug, yes or no?
My initial inclination is yes, but I'm going to say no because you want to get Guy Fieri out of there.
Well, as somebody who can speak on this subject expertly, I can tell you with 100% assurity that I couldn't care less. I couldn't. However, because I have an opportunity, because somebody nominated me, the competitor in me now wants to win. But do I care? No, of course I don't. It's the reason that I cared so much was what I listed 2 weeks ago. You can go back and listen to the top of the second hour at that point. But no, I couldn't care less if I get into the Barbecue Hall of Fame or not. Doug, did you have a follow-up on that?
No, I did nominate you, but you care because you want to get Guy Fieri out of there.
Well,
so
yes, of course.
Inherently, there is
maybe why everybody else cares too is because they want to see, much like Doc Holliday, how far my hypocrisy goes. Because it would be the most hypocritical thing on the face of the earth if by happenstance I get into the Barbecue Hall of Fame and then within my speech, the first thing that I say is, and as my first order of business, we're going to get this Guy Fieri out of the barbecue. If I don't say that, people are going to be like, what a dick. That would be the ultimate in hypocrisy, which, of course, then I have to take into account because that's where I love to live. Oh, my God, it's going to be such a thing. But we continue to move on. Hey, John, 100% yes or 100% no. Rusty Monson is the most impressive barbecue trailer vendor that you know.
Yes. Absolutely. 100% yes.
Doug, yes or no?
I don't know. This is really a tough. No, I'm just kidding. Rusty, hell yeah.
I'm going to triple up with the boys here, and it's not even close. Rusty, 100% yes or 100% no. Rusty Monson is the most impressive barbecue trailer / vendor you know.
I have too many mentors to say yes, so I'm going to say no.
But are the mentors producing food for 400 people a day? Pulling down huge contracts, doing all this stuff? I mean, don't sell yourself short or be the humble guy when you don't have to.
Well, one of the people that I talk to often and get advice from now just bought his third different barbecue truck business.
Wow.
And runs them all. So, yeah, and he kills it, and he's great and very, very helpful dude. And I think he would be the most impressive one I've ever seen.
Doug. Just talking to Derrick Riches about it here a couple minutes ago, but 100% yes or 100% no. Battery-powered grills will end up being more popular than electric grills in 2023.
100% yes, and even 10 times more popular.
10 times more popular. Wow. John Solberg, 100% yes or 100% no. Battery-powered grills will end up being more popular than electric grills in 2023.
This is a great subject, but at the moment, I'm going to have to go no. We're not there yet.
Rusty, yes or no?
Hell no.
Hell no. I'm going to double up Rusty and go, hell no. I still can't wrap my head around battery-powered grills. I get it. But when I say it, it's like I was telling Derrick last segment. I say it out loud, and I almost want to hit myself for saying that. I can get over the fact I got to plug a lot of my grills in to an outlet, which I didn't think I was going to be able to get over, but I don't think I can mentally hurdle battery-powered grills at this point. I don't care if they're portable or not, but that just seems like a weird thing to me. Rusty, is it a weird thing to you?
It's just, you got to plug it in anyway, you know, because it's got a charge. It's not just a battery that lasts forever. So you're going to have to plug it in most of the time. What you're going to do is unplug it to use it. And if you go somewhere else, it's cool. But I don't know. It's just you have to plug it in still. Like, why not just keep it plugged in? Like you said on your show, you said the last a couple. I don't remember what episode it was, but you're just like, dude, just keep it plugged in. Like don't mess with it. It's fine.
John, what's your mental hurdle, or why do you think it's a good subject?
When Milwaukee figures this out, and they will, if you're not familiar with Milwaukee and you don't work in, tool type trades, they're coming after Yeti. They've got coolers. They've got the greatest cordless power tools on the planet. I don't even want to be a fan, but you got to be. When Milwaukee figures it out, everybody in the Milwaukee Armory will own a battery operated Milwaukee portable grill. They'll have it on the job site cooking burgers. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Doug, what's your thought on why it is going to be big?
Oh, I'm sure Elon Musk, who knows everything, is going to invent his own damn grill. And he did develop the Tesla, which you cut the cord and you can go about your business for 200 miles. But I absolutely think. And in fact, I think we missed it with electric grills. But that's a different surety question.
100% no or 100% yes, and we go back to Rusty. The biggest gimmick in the pellet industry right now is 100% charcoal pellets.
By default, I'll have to say yes. Yes.
Do you want to say no?
Well, I just think that there's a lot of, bad pellets out there and they're useless. And so I think it's just one other way to feel like you're cooking real food.
Doug, 100%.
Real barbecue.
Doug, 100% yes or 100% no. The biggest gimmick going on in the pellet industry right now is 100% charcoal pellets.
There is only one correct answer to this after the doctorate that Chris Becker gave last week. It is yes.
Do you have further info that you want to share on that?
No, I was hoping you could tell us that after shipping him a bag of chips.
You know me in the mail, so it's going to take a little while. But
well, we know you're not driving it there.
Yeah, no kidding. John, 100% yes or 100% no. The biggest gimmick going on in the pellet industry right now is charcoal pellets. 100% charcoal pellets.
Yes, 100% yes.
Look, John, you're a guy that makes his own freaking charcoal. Is there any way that you see this happening outside of mixing some kind of wood in there to hold it all together or having some kind of a binder?
Well, if you remember the comment about the possible retort method of creating these pellets,
yeah.
And I make my charcoal in a form of a retort. I thought about it. I was like, no, I don't see you can't pull it off. There's no way you could economically even pull that off. So I'm like, hey, I can't figure out how you would do it. But it's an interesting thought. But what you have is charcoal caramel color added pellets. That's what we got going on here.
For me, it's 100% yes. And once again, I will pull as far back as maybe 7 or 8 years ago when I first started seeing charcoal pellets come into the market, and I don't even think they were around for a year. And then all of a sudden you never heard about them again. And now Royal Oak is trying. I don't even know if Royal Oak was the brand that was bringing them out the first time I heard about them, but they're bringing them out this time. And the difference this time is social media is way more advanced. It's way more far-reaching. And they have some really good influencers that are on the Royal Oak train that are taking pictures with this stuff, that are saying, hey, we vetted it out, or we believe that whatever they're saying is true. However, when I'm reaching out to them and I'm directly asking you, is this a 100% charcoal product? And your first reply back to me is, and then I ask you how you make them, and your first reply back to me is, this is proprietary. We don't share this information. Well, then I think you're hiding something. It's not because I'm offended that you're not telling me how you do it, but in a roundabout way, I'm saying, can you just tell me we are making a 100% charcoal pellet, period, and I can't tell you how it's made, but just know this. It's 100% charcoal pellet. The minute you start adding in descriptor words on the bag like 100% hardwood charcoal pellet. Now my mind has to do mental gymnastics. And we all know about me and my mind. It's not very good. I ain't too smart. But I think then there's hard wood and then maybe some charcoal dust, and you're mixing it together. Now you can run it through a press, and that the wood part of that mixture has the lignin on it, and that's what holds everything together. And so you call it a hardwood charcoal pellet. I can't prove that, but they're not telling me that that's how they do it because it's proprietary and they want to keep it protected. But they're not saying that it's also a 100% charcoal pellet, not 100% charcoal hardwood pellet, which to me is a difference. Doug, am I picking nits?
No, actually, that's a pretty good hypothesis that it's only partly charcoal. So yeah, because a lot of pellet companies I think do that, where they use a base wood and then they use a flavor wood, and even if it's lesser than 50%, that oak or hickory or whatever.
John, am I off on my hypothesis?
Oh, not at all. And
no?
If I might add, Doug, don't forget flavor oil. Oh, never mind. That's
I don't know what you're talking about.
I actually believe, Greg, I got to go back and find it now, that I think you and Candy Weaver had this conversation years ago.
Wow,
Same subject.
That would be well over 10 years ago then, probably.
Right, and I'm either that or it's a false memory. I'm going to go scope that out. But no, you're totally in line with the reality of it, in my opinion.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with more embedded correspondence. We are on a roll here as we just finished the latest round of 100% surety questions. What did you think? By the way, when we come back, we'll ask them the YouTube poll question of the week, which sees a winner at 53%. Oh, by the way, I have to quickly check my ESPN score here, see where we're at. Oh, dear Lord. It's not looking good for the Cavs, ladies and gentlemen. They're down damn near 12 points with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. I've seen them make up deeper holes. Well, that's the third week in a row I've said weird things that sounded good in my head, but not when I said them out loud. All right. Big Papa Smokers is the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies, getting you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. All picked and approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. They have 13 perfectly balanced flavors of rubs and seasonings. The popular ones like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit and in the backyard. The owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce or you're tired of what's existing out on the market right now, you can try Granny's, great all by itself, or you can add it to whatever you want, make it your own. And if you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, you check out that Mac 2-Star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. If you're not a fan of pellet smokers or you don't know what grill you need, you should call and ask questions because they sell a lot of them. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or you shop their website at bigpopsmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We're back with the embedded correspondence right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we welcome back the embedded correspondents and everybody else here as we get ready to close out the show here this evening on a Wednesday. By the way, programming note, if you're just joining in and you like the live version of this, we will also be live next Wednesday. It's not going to be Tuesday, where it will be probably forever after these 2 weeks. But next Wednesday will also be the live airing of the show. So how does that affect podcasts? You will see a podcast tomorrow on Thursday. You will also see a best of on Friday, and then you will see hour number 2 on Saturday. So that's how it's going to roll out. Or we might reverse the second hour and the best of. But either way, podcast Thursday, Friday, and Saturday releases for this week and next week as we welcome back the embedded correspondents here. So we got some other topics to dig into here aside from the Assurity questions, gents. And we'll go ahead and start with Doug here. Doug, did you ever find any of the Beyond Meat seared steak tips?
No, I didn't, and oddly enough, I looked for it about 2 weeks ago. So no, it wasn't in my, it wasn't in HEB, which is, heck, they even have Traegers in HEB, but no, I didn't see it.
Rusty, did you ever come across any?
No, I have looked when I remember, but I haven't seen them. So I really want to try it. I'm really excited. So if you guys find some and I'll friggin' pay for postage, just send it to me.
I don't know if they would ship that well. John, did you find them?
I did. Rusty actually got some in the freezer, so maybe I'll try to work with. Yeah. Bottom line is, yeah, I did them. I tried them. I still have some stock.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and give our initial reviews, John, since I found them within a couple weeks of not being able to find them originally. What did you think of the Beyond Meat seared steak tips?
I don't have any issue with them. First of all, I just cooked them plain. I threw them in a skillet with a little bit of oil and just fried them in a cast iron pan. They're pleasant. They're not offensive to me. They don't have an unusual texture. Am I going to go out of my way for them? No, but I see them as a viable option for the non-meat eating people that want their non-meat to taste like meat. It did remind me of meat, texturally and taste-wise, both.
Would you season them different going down if you were to make them again?
Probably so. They need something, even more than just salt. I would probably I'd put something on there. Or hey, how about lots of butter? There you go.
Well, I did butter, and I cooked exactly like the directions, although I think directions said oil to some degree, but I used butter instead. And then just some steak seasonings, salt, pepper, whatnot. And maybe, John, you have a more advanced plant-based palate than mine. I did find them to be horribly offensive. I did find the texture to be completely off-putting. I would never buy them again. If the choice to eat them to subsist and live or to die, I would choose to die. I thought they were some of the grossest shit I have ever had. And I was hopeful, too, because I think the Beyond Burger is light years better than the seared steak tips to me, and it's like not even close. Like those appear to be more realistic burgers than the steak tips. Now, of course, the masochist in me also would love to see if Beyond Meat could come out with some type of a cut of plant-based meat and we could cook it like a steak and see what that would be like. I could see where the seared steak tips, you could chop them up a little bit more finely and use them in a like meatless taco or something like that. But I would imagine, well, they have, John, they have ground plant-based meat already, right? So you wouldn't have to cut up the seared steak tips in order to do tacos. You could just do ground meat if you wanted to.
Correct. Comes in packages, just like a pound of ground beef in that square cryovac sealed up thing.
So if you have a palate for it and you haven't tried it, then John says, don't go out of your way to get it. It's not that great, but certainly not off-putting. I say go out of your way to never get it. Don't try it and take my advice. So whoever you like better or whoever you find your palate aligning with, pick that one and roll with it. And we can go from there. But, guys, I would not go out of my way to find it. But if you do, put in the effort, and then we can see where you guys line up. Maybe John will send part of his stock over to Rusty. How would you send that, John? Would you have to dry ice that, or do you think it's like it?
I'm guessing.
Did you find it odd? Like the directions said, cook it to 165 degrees internal. Like it's not meat. So is that just a regular safety thing?
No, it's all frozen vegetables. All frozen vegetables. You need to cook them to 165 degrees. Grab a frozen vegetable, whatever it is out of your freezer. Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. It's a listeria thing. It's real. Go read your frozen vegetable labels. It recommends cook to 165 degrees on all of them. It's a reality. It's a vegetable. It's plant-based. You got to cook it to 165.
All right. Well, that makes sense to me.
That's the FDA stuff.
All right. Yeah, good sense there. I was reading it going, wow, that's weird. But then, of course, I was internal temperaturizing the little seared steak tips, and there we go. All right. Let's do a little who's your favorite, as we got about 10 minutes left. Rusty, who's your favorite YouTube barbecuer right now?
Chud's probably.
Oh, yeah? I had him on the first hour. Chud's Barbecue.
Smoking Joe's. I like him. Watch him.
Yeah.
And yeah, those two. And I like Mad Scientist. I'll say it. Those three. Yeah.
I'll say it like people are going to make fun
No,
of
I'll
you.
say it because I was third and you asked for one. So I was breaking the rules like I do because that's what I do.
That's right.
And that's my top one in 3 forms.
Yeah. All right. Doug, who do you like for YouTube barbecuers?
You know, I have to admit I don't really watch many YouTube barbecuers, but if I had to, you know, Sam the cooking guy some and Malcolm a little less than that, but I'll go with my buddy CJ.
Do you like him cooking?
Clarence Joseph?
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's a badass.
All right. Just asking. God, I don't need to get all defensive. John, who's your favorite YouTube barbecuer?
I'm kind of along the lines of Doug. I don't have one, and I don't sit around and watch YouTube barbecuers. When I got that kind of time, I'm barbecuing. So I'm like,
John's a content creator. Lazy asses. That's right. He's creating his stories and all this other stuff. By the way, it's been nice the last couple of weeks seeing the lake back out there on the YouTube or the Instagram stories, and the grills getting fired up there. It was almost like we had old John back in the mix that we've come to know and love for years. So I don't know if that's something that's going to continue on, but it's a nice reprieve, if nothing else.
Yeah, it's been a long hiatus for me, and I'm excited to get grills clean, grills running. Looking at the lake. It's good to be home after a long time away.
My favorite YouTube barbecuer right now he's not putting up a lot of content because I think he's trying to find a new space, but this is going to sound really suck assy of me, but it's Sterling Ball, Big Papa Smokers, cooking with Big Papa. Like his production is great, and he's a great cook, and he knows how to use all the pieces of equipment that he's got. He's giving you really great recipes, both basic and some that are a little outside of the box, but not the stuffy, pretentious bullshit like, look what I can do that you probably can't, so I'm going to film this and you can see how much I can do it and you can't. But I think he's got a lot of great content. And then to break my own rule, I'm with Rusty on Chud, and I didn't really know about Brad until maybe a year ago. Maybe a year and a half ago, when somebody started putting me onto him, and then I quickly became a fan, and even more of a fan now that he learned how to build his own barbecue pits from YouTube. Like that he wasn't a fabricator, didn't know how to weld or anything like that, and he's like a self-taught guy. So that's very impressive to me. How do we cook steak at home, Doug? Favorite way to do it?
Well, in my narcissistic fashion, I call it the Scheiding method of steak cooking.
Okay,
So I will, yeah, thank you. I actually put rub on this, and then I put it on a metal pan and put it in the freezer for 15 minutes. And then I put it on a slow smoker for about an hour to an hour and a half, and then I will sear it and do an all over sear. And I'm still anti grill grates. Thank you.
All over sear in a cast iron pan then?
Yeah. I like to use duck fat because that has less moisture than butter. Yeah.
Rusty, your favorite way to cook steak at home?
Well, first I'll leave the steak out for at least an hour. I'll put salt on it only at first. And then when I get my pan, I'll get a cast iron pan. I'll get it to about 450-ish, right around there. And I have 2 garlic cloves, some rosemary. I'm old school with it. I do the salted butter. And then I'll put some pepper on it like 15 minutes before I put it on. and then I'll sear it off. I'll put a little. I usually put a little grapeseed oil in the pan real quick right before I put it on. I don't let it sit in there very long because it's a very hot pan, and then put that in, sear it, flip flop it. I think a lot of people they think that they have to sear it on one end and wait. You can keep that thing flipping and flopping all day long. It'll sear beautifully. Then I put a couple pallets of butter in, start like basting it with the 2 garlic cloves and the rosemary inside of it. And then when I get it done and it's nice and crispy and looks beautiful and red and it's a perfect medium rare, I put some Heinz 57 on that motherfucker and I eat it.
And I ruin it right at the end. Yeah, so suck it, everybody. Well, hey, look, that's Rusty's palate, and if that's what tastes good to him, then that's what tastes good to him. Do you never not eat Heinz 57 with steak, Rusty, or is that like a staple for you?
Honestly, to be completely fair, if I take one bite and I'm like, I screwed this one up, Heinz 57 goes on it. Or if sometimes I'll just cook, I'll get some meat some my dad gives me and it sucks, and that's how I cook. That's the time I'll eat the Heinz 57 sauce.
John, how do you do steak at home?
Salt and a grill.
There you go. Easy enough. Well, to be the antithesis of the guy below me, I like to do. I'm still New York strip guy for now, although I started to re-waver back over to ribeye, but still mostly New York strip guy. I'll do a nice coating of both cash cow and double secret steak rub from Big Papa's. Really like those together, and then into a vacuum seal bag, vacuum it up into a 118-degree sous vide bath for an hour, depending on how thick they are. And then I'll get my gas grill rip-roaring hot with the flat side of my grill grates that Doug doesn't like, and make sure that that's nice and hot. And then I'll pull those steaks out of the sous vide bath, pat them dry. If the seasoning looks like it's still where I would like it to be, I leave it. If not, I might hit it with a little bit more seasoning before we go to the grill. And then it's maybe 10 seconds aside, flip it, 10 seconds aside, flip it, do the little Rusty method there, flip-flop, flip-flop, so you don't have any real heat momentum building up, as a one-time guest said on this show. And then I'm done. I don't let them rest for any specific period of time, just gather whatever else we're going to eat. That's enough rest for me, and then away they go. And I would never have admitted that that's my favorite way to do steak at home right now, except I find myself doing that more and more, and I'm not going to lie. And if you don't like it, suck it. It's just what works for me. Can I do it all the other ways? Yes. But for whatever reason, that's been yielding tremendous results. And I think a lot of that has to do with the seasoning, too. For whatever reason, the cash cow and the double secret steak rub are magic together. And everybody in the house loves it to boot. So, and we're just lucky that they happen to be a sponsor as well. So that's how we do steaks. If you want to follow these guys, pay attention, because they're going to give you all their social media and they're going to tell you about what's going on in their lives here over the next month. Doug, go ahead.
Robes on all social media, including www.roguecookers.com. And I lied last month. Meathead and my co-host with Baseball and Barbecue is coming out next weekend.
Oh, okay. Very good. The Baseball and Barbecue podcast, hosted by Doug Scheiding, with his co-hosts Len Hollywood Aberman and Jeff the Old Coot.
I just let them on.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to give those guys, something to look forward to each and every week as you host that show. John, what's coming up?
Hey, this Friday, not out of order, the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less. I appreciate you checking that out. If you want to get a hold of me, ask any questions, John, J-O-N, John, at the bbqcentralshow.com.
Rusty, what's happening?
You can go check out the Pitmasters podcast tomorrow. We have Christy Vanover, and she takes you through how she does her competition ribs step by step. And if you want to follow me on Salt City Barbecue, go ahead. I'm on all the socials, saltcitybarbecue.co, if you want to see my pretty face and stuff like that. And that's what I got going on.
All right, there they are, Doug Scheiding, John Solberg, and Rusty Monson. We will see them again in May. Guys, appreciate it, and especially Doug for joining me from his fundraiser, taking a little time out there and doing the segment every month. So certainly appreciate that. And we are ready to wrap this show. So Once again, follow the Embedded Correspondents if you're not doing it already. John Solberg, Doug Scheiding, and Rusty Monson. And we'll be back to wrap it up here in just 1 second. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
And we thank the Embedded Correspondents for joining us for the last two segments. The most magical moment of the Embedded Correspondents is me over-talking and not looking at the setup of the 100% assurity questions, blowing my answer right out of the water, going to John, who had just told me the question before that Chris Lilly was going to win Memphis in May. And then when I asked him, because I felt obligated to ask him the question, if Team Blues Hog was going to repeat as Memphis in May next month, he said 100% yes. And I'm like, what? You just said that Chris... It does appear that hypocrisy does rub off on one another here if you show up enough on this show. All right, all the way back in the first hour, we talked with Brad Robinson from Chud's Barbecue, CHUDSBBQ.com, selling the Chud Box, the Chud Press, Chud Rub. He does sell offset pits, but it doesn't appear that he's taking order for offset pits, although that big offset pit is pretty effing cool. That could be one I might own, like spend my own money. We'll see about that. And then after Bradley, we talked with Derrick Riches in his traditional 35 past the first hour segment on the fourth Tuesday. We talked about electric full-size grills and the need for 220, or how much better a 220 would work. We also talked about battery-powered grills and if that's actually going to be a thing or not. He doesn't think so, and I tend to agree with him. And then the second hour is the Embedded Correspondent. So there you have it. Big show planned for you next week. Again, programming note, next week's show, which includes Malcolm Reed, and it also includes Sam the Cooking Guy, amongst others, is going to be on Wednesday. Don't tune in on Tuesday for a live show. Next week, May 3rd, is going to be a Wednesday. It will be a Wednesday show as well. And then we'll get back to the Tuesday shows after that. Hopefully, I have served you with this information that you can use going forward. Again, podcast will be hour number 1 tomorrow, a best of on Friday, and a second hour on Saturday. So there you have it. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Bye-bye.
This is Dino Dan from Cypress, California, and you're watching the Barbecue Central Show.